And yeah, I won some grants, which massively helped. I didn't know anything about grants. I didn't even know they existed. And it was so new to me. And this was back in like 2018.
Can you recommend any accelerators? Do you want to say any accelerators that you went on that were obviously beneficial that can you remember?
Yeah, so I went on one last year called Levels. I think they called 2020 Change now, or Levels 2020 now. And they basically gave me a mentor, which was amazing. And I've never been on an accelerator where I've gotten like an actual like mentor to help me with my business and my mentor was amazing. And I still speak to my mentor today. I see my mentor is even like a friend at this point, because they've helped me so much. And it's been just life-changing what value someone else can bring, when looking outside in from your business. They don't know your business well. So it's good to have like a very different overview of your business, but also getting some really helpful like next steps. And they also gave you like they did like classes like every like 2 weeks. So you would come into London, and that was like at night, like around like 5-6. So it was actually really great because I'm working full time, and I could just finish work and go afterwards to the accelerator and learn, and then kind of talk about what I can do with my mentor afterwards. And it was like a really good balance, and also great value. And then at the end, you can obviously, if you get to a point, you can pitch for to win some funding, which is I think 2,000, I'm not sure. But yeah, you can pitch for funding, so which is quite great at the end. So yeah, I would recommend that one. And for any like femtech, so if you're in the femtech, like menstrual, like hygiene, like for women, I would say Femtech Lab. That's the one I went on for 3 months and was amazing.
Okay. I've heard about
yeah, they're absolutely great. And so that's one I would highly recommend if you're a femtech business. Femtech Lab, they took a percentage. They took 5% of my business, and to me, it didn't matter that much because they were giving me 3 months of value, their network, and I had already seen other founders in the previous cohort really do well. Like really, they raised millions, and that's like amazing. Like the brands that that were in the cohort were Sisters, and there's another company called Unfabled there who are just amazing. So they have really powerhouse femtech brands that did the cohort. So like I had such major belief in giving them 5% of my business, but I've not done that for any other accelerators at all. So I would say probably the only one to have done that.
And how much did they give you?
No, that they did not give us any funding at the end, but you could there was like I think at the end, if you like, I think if they give like awards and people do win funding, but I did not win any funding for that. But there are people, I think 3 people that won some funding, I think maybe like 5,000. Yeah, I would say that maybe that was the amount, but you can win funding at the end.
So I'm so glad that you're still here and enjoying this episode of Hear the Hustle. If you're getting value from it, please do like and subscribe, because then that helps me make more content like this and speak to more inspiring founders to hear their stories about how they fund their businesses, sometimes, most of the time, from nothing. So like, subscribe. And if it's not for you, then I'm sure some people, you can forward it to someone and it might help them.
I definitely did not win that because I was struggling. I'm not going to lie, because I was working full time and trying to do the cohort, and it was really challenging. So that's one thing I would say about doing these things. You kind of have to, it's either you really like learn from what the cohort is giving you, or your aim is to like win the money. Like, do you like, it's a really hard balance. So yeah, it's really hard when you're working full time, but yeah, It was good though. And I just did one maybe like last year called Founderland. And that's for like people of color. They're based in Berlin, so there was an hour difference. So when it was 9 o'clock, I was starting my sessions at 8 in the morning. But it was great because I could do that, then go go to my full-time job. So I didn't feel like he was compromising anything.
Yeah. Even
And
though
that
it
was
in
great.
Berlin, they were accepting people from another country.
Oh yeah, they're all around the I would say Europe, I think, yeah, I believe, which is great. And then at the end of it, I got to go to Berlin and pitch to investors. So that was my first pitch. And
You didn't have to pitch
pitching
in
the
German, did you?
no, I
Okay.
can't. No. And but then they gave me my first grant for Beam. That's how I created my first formulation with that funding they gave me.
Oh, wow. And how much was that?
That was €2,000, and I think that maybe when you change that, it's like £1,600.
Okay.
But yeah, that's basically my formula money. So yeah, it gave me like a really good starting point. Just to get started.
Yeah.
Then I also won a grant that was, I think, £11,000 from UN Limited. They're like an organization that helps like social impact entrepreneurs, and that was for Bloodbox. So I recommend anyone who has like a social impact business to apply for their grants. They've got like one for like 5,000. They've got one exceeding that as well. They've also got several different like grants as well. So
Okay.
I recommend if you have like.
Sorry, when you say UN Limited, do you mean the United Nations or?
No.
Okay.
I think no, not the United. I can't. Maybe I'm not pronouncing it properly. It's UNLTD. I think that
Okay.
is UN Limited.
Yeah. Okay.
It's not the It's not the United Nations.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. But I'll send you the link. But it's not the United Nations. They are based in the UK.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. It's only for like social impact founders. But yeah, they're UK based.
So I'm so glad that you're still here and enjoying this episode of Hear the Hustle. If you're getting value from it, please do like and subscribe, because then that helps me make more content like this and speak to more inspiring founders to hear their stories about how they fund their businesses, sometimes, most of the time, from nothing. So like, subscribe. And if it's not for you, then I'm sure you know some people, you can forward it to someone and it might help them. So for people who are maybe obviously working full time and they want to get grant funding, because it's obviously like free money, and they would struggle to do an accelerator program. Are there any grant programs where you said, I know earlier you mentioned that, you fill out an application form, you answer questions, send a video. Are there any grant programs where you just literally just apply for the grant without having to do an accelerator program that you've been on or that you've applied for?
Yeah, so the UN Limited, I hope that's how to say it. So that's one of them, I would say. And Innovate UK.
All right.
Innovate UK, you still need to do videos, and they've got a whole long list of questions. That's a different. I've never won one, but I know some people have won some. There is definitely scope for that, but it's become super competitive. But that's definitely ones that are very like ongoing. I would say a lot of these grant competitions are very touch and go. Sometimes they show up every year, sometimes they don't. But
yeah, so what would you say is probably the hardest question you've had from an investor while you've been pitching or applying for a grant program?
People will be like, why you? Why can't they just copy what you're doing? And that question always like, I'm just like, what do you mean? But I usually answer it like, I mean, they would have done it anyways if they wanted to. Why haven't they done it? I've already built the business. I'm serving the problem. It's, someone doing something that you're doing, doesn't make it the same thing. You actually have the problem. So you have personal experience. You can tell your story. You can execute it the way, you vision it, but they can't see it that way. So that's how I usually answer the question. And I would say that's a very tricky one. I would say that's more of an investor question. And in terms of grant ones, they're always repetitive. They're always generic. I've not seen anyone that's kind of like, like, wow, like I can't answer this question. But one question that really I would say I didn't do well in my Innovate UK one is the risk register. That is very hard to do.
What
It
is
needs
that?
to be, basically they ask you about all the things that could happen and how you're going to like mitigate it. Like if it was to happen, but it's a very tricky question to answer. And I think actually that trips a lot of people because you have to kind of expose yourself, be like, this is going to happen and this is
The
what I'm going to
risk,
do.
yeah.
Yeah. And this is who's going to help me. And this is like, you have to have it be like really down to the T. Like they want, it has that, I would say that's probably the most detailed part of the application. You really have to get into the nitty gritty and make sure you answer, unless like that's basically what failed me in my previous application, that risk
Okay.
register. Even though I answered it to what I thought was the best, it wasn't.
Yeah. No, and I guess it's also maybe explain how you're going to mitigate that risk, and if they think, okay, this mitigation is sound, or this could be
It's acceptable. Yeah.
I mean, did they give you any feedback then?
This is the second Innovate UK application I did, and I didn't score as high as the first one, which was for Blockbox. And then I basically, when I got all that information, feedback they gave me, and I used it for Beam, and I scored more higher. So I'm guessing the next one has to be higher than my previous one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm basically just listening to their feedback, and it's super helpful, like to understand what they actually want from your questions.
Yeah, now that is good that they do give feedback. Because we're just going back to the investor question that you spoke about, where they said, why you? Isn't anyone else doing this? Isn't this already out there? But if you are sort of a new business, and maybe you have a formulation, like say you have a Beam, but it's not in the shops yet, no one's using it, or maybe you don't have enough customer or market research, have you been in a position where you've had to answer that question where, okay, you've got an idea essentially, but it's not shelves and you haven't done customer research?
Like I would not recommend anyone puts himself in front of an investor that is actually actively investing without doing all that market research. I think the market research is at least good to have, because you've got all the facts, all the details. If they ask you why this, you can actually respond. I'm not saying you should have your business plan out to the T, but they need to understand there's an actual problem that you're solving. And if you don't know that, then, and with facts, it's going to be an embarrassing conversation. I'm not going to lie. I wouldn't want anyone to put themselves through that, because I have had conversations with people, when they've gone, even not responding, like regarding like the product. It's like they're like, oh, why aren't you doing as well as X, Y, Z? And I'm just like, I don't know, I don't have funding. And they're like, no, but you can get funding. So like, I think really kind of making sure you're prepared for any kind of like business like interaction with someone who's an investor, I would say, because they could be investing in you, they could be introducing you to other investors. And I think kind of really laying the ground that you understand your problem and you understand your business is just sees you as an expert already in their eyes, I would say.
Yeah, no, definitely. Because I know you mentioned that with Beam, you had a personal sort of experience, but I'm assuming you've done sort of market research to see if this problem. It's not just
loads
for me.
Yeah, no. I did a lot of research before I mean, it came from personal experience, but I did tons of research. Like I still do research, and I just literally built like a research bank at this point. But I constantly do research, and I think that's massively what's helped me back up my idea, as well as even just speaking to like potential customers, not just with like research from the internet, like actually speaking to my potential customers and getting insight into what they're doing and why it's an issue. And I think that's what you really need to understand before creating a business or an idea or anything like that.
Sure. No, definitely. That is very key. I mean, I'm a big fan of dragons then, I'll admit, and they like you to have done the research.